ensures success and admiration for any film they are in. I recently rewatched one of the highest grossing, most beloved films from Soviet cinema history, The Taming of the Shrew. A melodramatic comedy with Shakespearean passions. Why did it become so beloved by the Soviet and later Russian audience? A story about a rude, boorish bachelor that a beautiful woman from a good family decides to reform. How might such a fairy tale end in real life? And is there any hope for such a couple's happiness? Today's topic is toxic relationships. In toxic relationships, events arise where one or potentially both partners often feel overwhelmingly burdened, very unpleasant, extremely tense, and constantly on edge, experiencing nervousness. Every word must be carefully chosen, and the timing for any conversation meticulously considered, as you often find yourself overthinking. You repeatedly question whether or not to express your emotions, whether to discuss anything at all, because the unpredictability of the other person's reaction looms large, and unfortunately, most of the time, it will be a negative one. The film's characters, Ilya and Lisa, start their relationship with this poison, sarcasm, and very sharp jokes. Ilya, without introducing himself, without even hearing the girl's name in front of him, already starts showing his negative attitude, looking for something to latch on to.
My name is Lisa.
It's not your fault.
You practice astrology, I can catch a cold.
Me too. Water is equally wet for everyone, not just you. The drops bounce off you and land on me.
Why does it happen this way? A seemingly young man keeps his property in order. The farm is developing, the house is well kept, beautiful, covered with some sort of plants, most likely ivy. It creates a sense of coziness and care. And suddenly this person poisons the entire neighborhood with his actions, his words, his relationships with others.
Who did he retake with, Kitty? Ilya is accessible to all the inhabitants of Delamu. Erfi, yes, by my name. Erfi, in my name.
On the day we meet Ilya, it's his 40th birthday, a crucial milestone in a man's life, often signaling the onset of a midlife crisis. During this period, a man tends to reflect on and evaluate the midpoint of his life's journey. Ilya resides with a housekeeper who, one might assume, takes on a maternal role for him. She has repeatedly attempted to find him a suitable wife or bride, and one can be absolutely confident, without a shadow of doubt, that she went through all her friends and their daughters trying to arrange his personal life, but so far unsuccessfully.
Said Nikitin.
He said, I'm not allowed to invite strangers into the house. We'll have a heart-to-heart chat with her and she won't seem so much of a stranger to you.
And then one day, Lisa unexpectedly appears at his doorstep late in the evening. She's a girl whose car unfortunately broke down nearby, and she knocks desperately, asking for either help with her vehicle or, if that's not possible, to spend the night in his cozy house because it's terribly bad weather outside, pouring and stormy. I offer you exactly 5 seconds to think carefully about your decision.
Either you let me in or...
From the first seconds of their acquaintance, it becomes clear that this couple will never be happy, will not find common ground, will not agree, will not hear each other. And throughout the film, we watch how these toxic relationships develop. Toxic relationships have signs that are very characteristic. And now we will go through the red flags to understand how to recognize them in time and where they lead. The first and probably most significant sign is the inability to agree. Not about some great events or decisions, but about the simplest things. What we will eat for lunch, where we will go, who we will invite over, where we will go on vacation, how we will spend the upcoming weekend. On every slightest issue, there is opposition in the couple, driving the other to the brink. What's happening with our film's characters is completely obvious. There's definitely a spark flying between them. They clearly seem to like each other, with an invisible force drawing them to one another. Yet their way of communicating or interacting, unfortunately, shows very clearly that they're really not at all interested in what the other is truly thinking in their mind.
You can go to the hotel.
Which hotel? The one 15 kilometers from here.
Yes, a walk after dinner is needed. It aids digestion.
Lisa Silvestre is very grateful to the country gentleman for an excellent dinner, for the one I didn't taste, for the wonderful company, for everything I didn't receive. Thank you.
Each of them is focused only on themselves, absorbed in their own world. He doesn't spare a thought, not even for a moment, about her safety, her mood, or that if she has to walk a daunting 15 kilometers, anything could happen to her along the way. She shows up for dinner, an ordinary dinner at his house, but dressed as if it were a more significant occasion, like a big outing, a dress that would be suitable for a banquet or a gala, really.
Have you gotten used to going to bed with the chickens here in the village? Well, I haven't. I want to have some fun. It's just 10 o'clock.
A toxic attitude is very prone. Of course, lies are primarily aimed at benefiting one partner, but sometimes they're simply for enjoyment. In the case of our heroes, Lisa deceives Ilya. He suggests they go to a hotel. She tells him there are no rooms and makes a fake call to a hotel at a gas station in front of him.
You're at the gas station.
I would like to book a room with a bath.
We have motor oil.
All occupied, sorry. Nothing can be done, thank you.
Moreover, she's already resorting to heavy artillery like leg pain, to be honest. And you probably understand well that manipulating health, manipulating illness is one of the gravest signs of toxic relationships.
No, I can't take a single step. Terrible, unbearable pain. I'll cause you new troubles. You won't fail, so I can leave.
But Ilya quickly sees through her lies. Instead of having a happy conversation to resolve this conflict, he acts extremely harshly. He drags Liza almost naked out onto the street for all the neighbors to see. Look, a sign of a toxic relationship is definitely offensive jokes that hurt. Moreover, it's usually just one person in the couple who ends up being the target over and over again. These jokes are always demeaning and never appropriate at the right time. And so Ilya, having dragged Liza out for all the strangers to see, made sure to expose her. He knows everyone in his village, subjected her to a very serious trial. She realizes she can be mocked at any time when with him, and she decides to run away from him. And suddenly, the peak of a toxic relationship is physical abuse, which unfortunately manifests in the most distressing forms. Most often, it is women who end up getting beaten, bearing the brunt of such cruelty. And in our country, regrettably, this grim reality remains. And it's quite a common story for a woman to continue living with a man who periodically hits her, often trapped by economic dependency or fear of being judged by society. And amid this harsh reality, The old Soviet saying, if he beats you, he loves you, sounds absolutely monstrous and utterly callous, failing to convey the seriousness of the situation. No, it means he loves to beat.
Something wrong again?
Did you hit me?
No, it's a bucket.
Another sign of toxic relationships is when one partner holds on to the belief that they can mold or reform the other partner. This persistent illusion, the thought that if I just get involved in his life now, surely he will change for the better, is probably a very dramatic and unrealistic illusion because it often leads to a completely different outcome, one that is usually unforeseen. An adult person can decide on their own accord if they want to change something in their behavior. But for this, a motivator. I'll re-educate you now, and it works not at all. Or falls in love with the vibrant Lisa, a city woman with ambitions, beautifully looking, well-groomed, and begins to re-educate her, turning her into a farm girl, with a headscarf, in a stretched sweater, and carrying a bucket.
Are you there or what?
Newcomer, no?
Go ahead.
Lisa fell in love with a farmer, a simple guy, practical, maintaining his house, but certainly not with a sophisticated gentleman. Yet, she takes him to an expensive restaurant where a certain society gathers, and there he feels extremely awkward.
Do you like it here?
Would have settled down.
Keeping them together and actively attracting people who have such vastly different life orientations is quite a task. I can imagine that from Lisa's perspective, this relationship embodies the dream she harbors of being with a strong, brutal man. Then it transitions into her feminine fantasy, where she sees him as the protector, someone she can confidently rely on in any situation. There is an undeniable element of romance wrapped up in being involved with such a man. Of course, there's also her dream of experiencing very passionate sex. From his perspective, the feeling ignites primarily because the wildest dream has come true. In front of him, a beautiful woman, completely unlike those he sees every day working around the household. She's like out of a fairy tale. She's like out of a movie. She's utterly incredible to him, impossible for him. And suddenly he understands that she responds to his feelings.
So what? Will I get my positive answer?
You're as stubborn as a mule.
That's the first compliment.
The existence of toxic relationships themselves does not indicate that we are all destined to fall into this trap, and the main thing is to avoid getting caught in it. No, one must be a person who fits well into various roles in toxic relationships. Then it's practically guaranteed. More often become hostages of toxic relationships. Of course, first of all, these are men and women with certain deep-rooted traumas, profound psychological traumas, beyond any doubt. One might wonder what took place in Ilya's life that turned him into the person who found himself entangled in these complex, challenging relationships. He unfortunately grew up without the nurturing presence of a mother and was solely raised by his father within the challenging environment of a farming household, which could have contributed significantly to shaping his personality. We can only speculate, but it's quite likely that our hero's trauma was very serious and deeply impactful. In addition to that he doesn't know what motherly and feminine love is. Until his 40s, he never touched a woman and never kissed her. When Lisa comes into his room and quite frankly seduces him, he's so confused that the best he could come up with was to start talking about himself.
I was born on a cold winter evening, right in this room, downstairs. Mother nervously paced back and forth. A cigar was a tall man.
Pete! Landon like my grandmother.
The second category of people who end up in toxic relationships are children of toxic parents. They don't know how to build relationships differently. They form an emotional loop, accustomed to tension. Their behavioral pattern only works when all the rules of toxic relationships are met, otherwise they get lost. It seems Lisa is such a child. She looks for reasons at every opportunity
to create a tense atmosphere or to argue. And here arises the question, what doesn't satisfy Lisa about her fiancé? He's from her circle, he lives in the city, he's wealthy, he's handsome, endlessly devoted to her, ready to come to her at any time and take her away, yet Lisa is bored with him.
Lisa has nothing to do with him. She would have to put in too much effort to provoke a scandal with him. Take me away and soon.
Okay, I'm leaving now. Don't worry.
You don't even ask what I've been doing these 2 days.
No.
So you don't care where I am or what's happening?
No, my love.
Nice to surrender.
A third category of people are potential victims of toxic relationships. These are immature, undeveloped individuals. If a person hasn't grown up, it means they don't take responsibility for their life. They don't hold themselves accountable for how their life unfolds. Whether they're happy or not, they don't reckon with it and do nothing about it. And Leah, despite her strength and roughness, is essentially a little child.
Yes, in the guise of an adult man. And when he receives from Lisa some wonderful gift for her,
he reacts quite like a child. First, he's genuinely happy and thrilled about it, but then, suddenly scared of his own big and overwhelming feelings, he instinctively tries to hide it somewhere deep inside himself.
Where should I put this thing now? Maybe over here.
Here is fine. Or maybe further, over there, best here.
The best.
He's not a bad person. He's someone who likely has a love for all living things, whether big or small. I'm almost certain that his toughness, his unyielding desire to have power, to be the one controlling every aspect of his own life, maybe it's just a neurotic defense mechanism.
I was in China in the Mediterranean. Fantastic king. Is she alone? What to do with her? What to do?
Is it possible to leave toxic relationships? Can toxic relationships be preserved in the future by removing their poison and bitterness? Let's try to figure this out.
Can Ilya and Elizabeth be happy? I think they have such a chance. Firstly, at the moment when Lisa came to seduce him, he suddenly wanted to open up to her. He wanted to show himself, to tell about himself. It's like a small light that lit up during the conversation, and it seems they succeeded as she listened to him. And Lisa, deceiving him, trying to stay in his house with her usual tricks, nevertheless puts on a scarf and takes a bucket in her hands. That is, her desire to improve relations with him. It's above all her habits and whims. Are you okay?
Absolutely, I'm totally fine.
Lisa, how are you, Lisa?
All right.
Our heroes indeed did well, and let's truly hold on to that belief. But unfortunately, not everyone manages to achieve such outcomes. Sometimes toxic relationships, I'd even argue most of the time, inevitably lead to a challenging and arduous lifestyle for both partners involved. The question arises, can one actually escape from them? Is there a way out, a possible solution? Yes, fortunately, there are ways. And the very first and crucial step on this path towards liberation is acknowledging that my relationship is toxic, that it is indeed destructive to me. It's important to recognize that these relationships rob me of the sense of living my own authentic life, depriving me of happiness and fulfillment. Important
Toxic
to shift from
protection
neurotic-
restored. And here the emotion diary will help us a lot. This diary serves as a useful tool that allows us to name and clearly identify the feelings we're experiencing. Through this process, we can then systematically analyze everything to finally see and understand the true picture of what's happening. The third important thing is to start socializing and interacting with other people. Because often when a person is in toxic relationships, they have no mood or desire to go out or engage with others.
Meeting someone new is beneficial, and I don't just mean romantically. Forming friendships or casual connections is important. Initially, this allows you to experience new emotions and perspectives, providing a fresh worldview. Additionally, having these relationships can be instrumental as they might offer support in your future endeavors. It's inevitable to acknowledge the significance of possessing information that's vital to life, including financial support. Such support is fundamentally akin to security.
From this perspective, it's incredibly beneficial to view the situation as it allows for a broader understanding and clarity. If you feel that the family conflict is option, it's crucial not to act impulsively or make rash decisions. Carefully plan your escape and ensure that your safety net is robust enough to support you for as long as necessary until you manage to regain stability and rebuild your life. It's essential to keep the existence of your safety net confidential and undisclosed to anyone else, especially concerning fleeing and toxic relationships.
Life is a complicated thing. It sounds very cliche, but when turbulence starts, you begin to understand this, not just with words, but as they say, with your whole skin. And there's always a way out of every situation. Toxic relationships don't mean the end of the relationship. Therefore, you need to look for solutions in this situation where you are sure that you need this person, despite all the storm and anger. You still love them and see their good sides and go from your own feelings, starting with yourself. And it is quite possible that your partner will also want to change something about themselves for the betterment of both of you in this relationship. By acknowledging, accepting, and embracing opportunities for personal growth, then everything will likely work out. Run.
Toxic relationships are dangerous ties. Despite their enormous destructive grip deep inside us, they are enticing.
Let's watch them in the movies.
So we don't have to learn from our own mistakes in real life.
Gone Girl, a thriller by David Fincher, and one of the most vivid examples of the cruelty that toxic relationships can lead to. A tale of marriage. The brother of a theater director and an actress is falling apart. They decide to divorce, inform their close child, which results in another fight and a lack of understanding of how to start a new life. My King is a passionate love story that causes suffering.
Intrigue, manipulation, rivalry, and eventually the breakdown of the relationship between a man and a woman.
Arguments and misunderstandings often occur even in healthy relationships. But the main difference from toxic ones is that here people can talk openly and without fear about their feelings. There is no place for manipulation or guilt pressure. Hint. Rewatch the film The Taming of the Scoundrel.
The couple went through many trials, including toxic relationships, but still found their way to each other, and there is hope they will stay together for a long time. Toxic relationships are not a sentence. Any relationship can be mended, can be changed, can be brought to a state where you are genuinely, deeply happy and satisfied with your life. One small but. All this requires effort and patience.